Hello, my name is Iwona, and today I'm going to show you how to install Tableau server with external file store on Linux in AWS. For this, we will need two components, EC2 instance and Elastic Block Storage, EBS. So EC2 instance, if you're new to AWS, is like a virtual machine, a VM in AWS, and it can be Linux or Windows, can be any system you want. The Elastic Block Storage is a volume that you would mount to the EC2 instance, kind of like a disk, and you would do that if you need additional space. So EC2 instance actually comes with one EBS installed by default, and then we are going to create additional one and attach it. And we're going to use that to install Tableau server and point the extracts to be stored in the external volume. Now, why would you even do this? Why is this useful? There are two reasons. First reason is your backup size. So if you're familiar with making backups, you know that you generate them usually daily for your production or maybe weekly, and you can use them in case something bad happens to restore your environment. Those can be from hundreds of megabytes to hundreds of gigabytes. And they can take from 10 minutes, 20 minutes to hours, sometimes even 24 hours to generate. Then if you need to restore that file, you're going to need around 30% more of what it takes to make it to restore. So that's going to be a lot of time. Also, you might not have enough storage to store all those files. So what will you do? Well, you can create this external file store, and then your backup will only include the metadata, Tableau, snapshot of Tableau repository. And you would separately make a snapshot of this additional volume that is attached to your Tableau server. And this is how you would store your extract information. So when the time comes, something happens, you will be able to restore your backup. And then to have extracts, you will use the snapshot of that volume to recreate them. The other reason you might want to do it is if you have Tableau cluster and you want to save on traffic in between the nodes, you might want to create that additional network drive or mount it to all the machines and decrease the traffic in this way. This will only work if you have Tableau cluster and very specific problems. So the main reason why people will do this is to save on the backup time. So now that we know why would we do this, let's dive into how are we going to do this. You probably need some Linux knowledge to follow this tutorial. So I'm just going to launch instances here. And because we're going to do Linux, I'm going to choose Amazon Linux 2. I need to choose what instance type I need. I can choose from one vCPU to many of them, even 48. So how do I know what to choose? Well, we have those minimum hardware requirements and recommendations. So because it's a POC, I'm going to go with the minimum hardware requirements for testing and prototyping that is just going to get us started with Tableau. However, in this environment, it won't be possible to run more than 3-4 dashboards at a time. So probably you can test it yourself with 2 or 3 of your colleagues. But for production environment, you will follow the minimum hardware recommendations. So we see here that we need 4 core, 16 GB of RAM, and 15 GB of disk space. However, there is a bit of a trick that we need to apply here, which is that in AWS, the vCPUs and the CPUs recognized by Tableau are not the same. So here we have this knowledge base article that says that, hey, if you're in AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud, if you have 8 vCPUs, it's actually being recognized as 4 cores by Tableau server. So that means that we now need 8 vCPUs to satisfy this condition of having 4 core. So let's try to find that instance. Here it is. T2 2x large, 8 vCPUs, which we know is 4 cores recognized by Tableau server, 32 GB of RAM, and some other settings here that we don't really need to look at right now. All right, let's configure details. This looks good. Add storage. Well, here they say that they need we need at least 15. I'm going to just do 50 for now. Here we go. I'm going to choose a security group that already exists, that has my name on it. It will allow us to connect to the server on HTTP, which we will start with because we will need a certificate to go to HTTPS. We will be able to SSH to the machine, and we're going to be able to use TSM administrative web UI. So we will be able to access TSM on the web. That looks good. I actually have my own keeper that already exists. So I'm just going to choose this one. But if you are new to this, just create a new one. And the instance is launching. While this is going, I'm going to go to the Elastic Block store, and I see already there is one volume here. This is the default one that we have with our machine. We're going to create a new one. I'm going to give it also 50 GB. And that's it, created. So let's rename it. This one is our external one. And I know this because it's available. And this one is our internal. And I know this because it's in use. It's already attached to EC2 instance. How are we doing? Okay, it's starting. I'm just going to rename it to Iwona external file store Linux. If we choose connect, we will be able to see this very helpful link that will help us to connect to the instance. So I'm just going to navigate to the directory when I have my PEM file, the key, and I'm going to paste that. And I'm connected to my instance. Let's just run a simple command to see if I'm really here. I'm here. And now I'm going to download my RPM package. So how do I do it? I go to the Tableau server page. I go down here and I need to make sure that I'm choosing Tableau server. And it should be RPM package because we are installing on a AWS Linux. If you would be installing on CentOS, that would be the same. Red Hat, the same. However, Debian or Ubuntu, it will be this package. So I'm just going to right click on it and say copy link address. And I'm going to say wget and paste the link address. Now I'm going to download that RPM package to my EC2 instance that I'm connected to. In the meantime, while this is going, let's maybe mount our Elastic Block storage to that volume. So we created additional volume, external one. It is not mounted anywhere. So here we see that one of them is mounted. So I think I can right click on it and say attach. And I think this is the only one that I have to choose from. We can ignore this. Sometimes this is different on the machine and here. So let's just say attach. And here we are. Now we have two volumes mounted, not yet mounted, but two yet soon to be mounted to our EC2 instance. The download is now completed. So I found this very helpful Amazon tutorial on how to mount EBS volume to Linux. So what we're going to do is follow this. If you want to read it carefully, I strongly advise that because it's very useful. I basically read it very carefully before, and I was able to run everything quite smoothly. So we're going to now run this command to list all our EBS volumes that are available. Here we can see that there is two of them, and one of them is mounted and one of them is not. Now we need to run this command, and if it's going to give us data, it means that there's no file system on it. And if it's going to give us a file system, it means there is a file system on it. I already know, because I've done this before, that there is no file system on it. And luckily for us, this tutorial has this volume name exactly the same as we do. So we just have to copy paste. So here, when this is listed, the /dev is omitted, but we have to add it for our commands. So we see that here the output is data. So this means that there is no file system on our volume. We can definitely create it. I'm going to skip this command for now. First, we're going to create that file system. Here we go. That's done. Then we're going to create directory where we're going to mount our Elastic Block Storage volume. I'm just going to call it Iwona data. And then we're going to mount it. So here there is a bit of a thing that you need to be really careful about. Usually when you mount stuff on Linux, you would mount it in /mnt directory. Here we're mounting it into the other point. So in Tableau server guide, we will have to remember and change that. Here we go. And we're here. I'm just going to change permissions to this folder recursively, so everything under will be having the same permissions. Just because I know if we do it now, it's going to spare us some headache. Is it enough to do a sudo? Perfect. I would usually also change the owner, Chone, to Tableau, but since we haven't run any Tableau commands yet, that user does not exist. So we will have to install some Tableau components first. If you forget to do this and you create this volume and mount it, but you don't have access to it, Tableau will give you an error while initializing the initial node, basically installing the initial node. Sometimes you can get away with it by just giving it privileges quickly and rerunning the initialize. However, sometimes you will get the create directory structure on external storage error. And in this case, I noticed that you cannot recover from that. You will have to reinstall Tableau server. That's something to keep in mind. All right, where is that package that we were supposed to install? Here it is. Let's just change permissions to 755. Here we go. And I think that tutorial that I have open here that tells me how to install Tableau server with external file store on Linux tells me that first I need to do yum update. And I'm going to do that because I'm going to follow the tutorial. And there is a bunch of things to install. So let's do that. Done. Now we're going to install our package. So I'm just going to copy the first part because the number is different. And I'm missing an S again. That happened before. And I'm going to install that package. And all the dependent packages. Done. Great. That is done. Now we're going to proceed to next command, which is initialize TSM. Let's do that. We're going to follow this. I think it's this script is in this place. And we're going to run the script. So opt Tableau server, scripts with whatever version. Oh, packages, scripts. And now sudo initialize TSM accepts EULA. Let's run it. Okay, that is done. So now, normally, when I install Tableau server on Linux, what I will do is just copy this, go to my browser, paste this, and continue in the browser. However, we're installing with external file store. So we're not going to do that. We're going to now have additional step that is going to let us configure external file store. So let's see what Tableau tutorial says. It says to log off and on again. That is a very good advice. Here we go. When we run TSM now. Beautiful. Activate and register Tableau server is our next step. I'm going to activate a trial license. So I'm just saying, okay, missing T. TSM licenses activate -T to activate the trial license. The trial license will actually allow us to install the external file store, which is really nice. And now we're running this command. And here, as I told you, it is /mount, but we now know that actually our mount is someplace else. So we're going to mount it to point it to Iwona data. Let's do that. So I'm just going to change owner chown recursively to Tableau, which I think is now created by the TSM, and to Iwona data. Okay, sudo. Here we go. How does this look like now? Perfect. Let's now run this command, the big command that actually lets us tell Tableau that we're doing the external file store. You cannot do it later after setting up the initial node. So it's very important to do it right now, right in this moment, following exactly this tutorial to make sure that everything is okay. You cannot change it after you've installed Tableau server. And it says to complete the install by doing things. So we can do that. So today's tutorial, because it's a quick and easy way of doing things, we're going to do the rest in a web UI. Okay, we're not going to do it in console, in a terminal. However, there is an option to do it in terminal. All of this is possible to do without a web UI. All right, so just to let you know. Another thing that we're skipping here is that we actually didn't tell Linux to mount volume on the reboot. So if you do this in production, please remember to make sure you are installing it, this mount on the reboot. Just in case you want to restart your Linux EC2 instance, which I don't think you would ever do unless you have a very good reason. All right, successfully enabled external storage. Great. Let's now go to this machine, web UI. And I know it has public IP. Here we go. Let's open that. So this failed because on HTTPS, we don't have a server because we haven't installed any certificates. If we were to access that server, we could access it on HTTP. Now we're, however, accessing the TSM administrative console. So it's on 8850. And that's how we can access this secret door to configuration of Tableau server. So I usually just say EC2 user. However, there's this problem here that you might already anticipate, which is that we don't really have a password because we just logged in with the PEM file. So what now? Well, good news is that it can be done and solved very quickly in Linux. I'm just going to make myself root, and I'm going to use this command called passwd, and then I'm going to say the user is EC2 user. And I'm going to change the password for this user in this way. If you change it from the user level, you will have to key in the old password, which you don't know. So it's better to do it this way. And I'm going to just type some random characters here. Hey, it worked. Now I'm going to type the same password here. Special characters, they don't work very well with Tableau. So if you can avoid it, please do. All right, so I'm now registering in the web console, which is much easier than doing it in command line, but it is possible to do it in command line. Here we go. I'm going to choose local because I don't have access to Active Directory. Port, I will give it as default. This is the greatest port ever. Because I installed Trail, I don't think that I can do this. And I'm going to include samples because I love those initial dashboards that come with Tableau. And now let us see if we did everything correctly. Okay, we are now done. The initialization is complete. You will need to create a Tableau server administrator account now. Don't be fooled by this message. This is only for Windows. I think if you click on it, nothing will happen, but let's check. Yes, nothing will happen. There's just a message saying that you have to do it in the command line. So let's just quickly do it. But here we can observe now our beautiful server with the external file store. This is how it looks like. This is really exciting seeing it here in the external section. You see it's not here, it's just there. This means that Tableau server is now running with external file store. How exciting is that? All right, let's just make that a last step. Create initial user with this amazing command. And that's going to be it. Here we go. Let's go to the server. And here we go. Our Tableau server is up and running. We can now see dashboards. Hey, and we see that external file store is here. Thank you so much for your time. Some parts of this video were sped up to make this more efficient for you to watch. Don't get disappointed if your initialize will take 20 minutes. And that's it.